Bloomington, Illinois. Population 78,600. This seat of McLean County, along with the adjacent town of Normal, together known as the Twin Cities, have a combined population of 130,000 residents. Situated halfway between Chicago and St. Louis, the area is known for Illinois State University and State Farm Insurance. Historically an important railroad center, Bloomington can still boast good freight and passenger rail service. McLean County lost numerous railroads during the past half-century, but those that remain are important to agriculture and industry as well as the traveling public. The Union Pacific's Joliet and Springfield subdivisions, seen in yellow, make up the county's oldest active main line. Let us begin at Chenoa with train ILB G4, which in Union Pacific parlance stands for Intermodal, Long Beach, California to Global 4, which is near Joliet, Illinois. Shown March 29, 2021, UP 5316, 4264, and 3827 have 189 platforms. UP 7096 is mid-train distributed power unit. This route has a complex history. The Chicago and Mississippi Railroad reached Bloomington from Alton in October 1853. The line was extended north to Chicago by the end of July 1854. The company name changed to Chicago, Alton, and St. Louis Railroad in early 1855. Trackage rights on another carrier eventually provided access south of Alton to Illinois Town. Illinois Town was renamed East St. Louis in 1861. It should be noted that the Chicago, Alton, and St. Louis shortened its name to just Chicago and Alton in 1861 and opened its route to East St. Louis in 1865. Steamboats were required to cross the Mississippi River into St. Louis until the Eads Bridge opened in 1874. The Chicago and Alton eventually expanded to Kansas City and Peoria, making Bloomington a system hub. Throughout its history, the carrier sometimes prospered but more often suffered. Following wartime federal management between 1917 and 1920, a coal miners' strike and a railroad shopmen's strike significantly reduced earnings. The Alton couldn't pay its debts, forcing it into receivership in 1922. Despite the national prosperity of the 1920s, reorganization proved fleeting, as the Alton was too dependent on short-haul, low-value traffic. A merger was deemed its only salvation. The Baltimore and Ohio Railway emerged as its suitor and acquired the Alton in 1931. Largely due to the Great Depression, it lost money every year of B&O control. So it was returned to receivership in early 1943. Finally, in 1946, the Alton was acquired by the Gulf, Mobile, and Ohio Railway and absorbed by that carrier on May 31, 1947. Union Pacific operates a local LSF 54 from Bloomington to points north and return. On February 14, 2022, UP 1066 and UP 1498 lead 26 cars past Uptown Station in Normal on its return trip to the Bloomington yard. The first three cars are soybean meal empties from Prairie Creek Grain at Wilmington. The two empty tank cars came from DuPont's polyurethane sealant plant, also at Wilmington. The other 21 are plastic empties from the Hoffman Transportation transloading facility at Coal City. Thanks to this facility, which opened in 2018, Typical consists on these locals have swelled from between 5 and 10 cars just a few years ago to between 20 and 50 today. In the next scene, we will see a typical example of one of those longer consists. On April 8, 2022, local LSF 54, led by UP 1148 and UP 1066, still wearing its Southern Pacific garb, rolled by Amtrak's Uptown Station with 49 cars. Getting back to the line's history, the Gulf, Mobile, and Ohio Railway operated here for 25 years before merging with the Illinois Central Railroad on August 10, 1972, to form the Illinois Central Gulf. Although Bloomington continued to serve as a hub for the GM&O, its status was diminished during the ICG era. By the late 1970s, much of the line's through freight traffic was diverted to the former Illinois Central Gilman line north of Springfield, thus bypassing Bloomington. By the mid-1980s, Illinois Central Gulf began pruning itself to a core north-south system between Chicago and New Orleans, casting off lines that it deemed unnecessary. In 1987, most remaining former Chicago and Alton mileage was sold to a new regional, the Chicago, Missouri and Western Railway. Unfortunately, the CM&W overpaid for trackage with little business and was forced into bankruptcy only a year after startup. The line's distress took its toll on Amtrak, which had to slow its trains due to deferred track maintenance. In November 1989, Southern Pacific Chicago-St. Louis, a subsidiary of Southern Pacific Lines, acquired the CM&W's East St. Louis to Joliet main line with trackage rights on the Illinois Central into Chicago. Southern Pacific upgraded the former Alton with continuous welded rail over several years, enabling Amtrak to maintain its standard 79-mile-per-hour operations. Through freight traffic, diverted from other carriers, boomed during the SP era. Although the Chicago extension proved beneficial, Southern Pacific had long struggled to earn sufficient revenue. Seeing its efforts were futile as Western Railroad merger fever heated up, it accepted an offer from Union Pacific in 1995. The UP gained control of SP and its subsidiaries on October 1, 1996. The SP-CSL subsidiary was merged into UP on June 30, 1997. Union Pacific's bungled attempt to integrate SP lines caused a massive system-wide operational meltdown in 1997 and 1998. As operations stabilized, UP diverted through freight traffic to other lines, leaving Amtrak as the most frequent user of the old Alton, Chicago to East St. Louis route. This local, which runs north from Bloomington Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, has mostly plastic loads for Hoffman Transportation. 6 carloads of soybean meal for Prairie Creek Grain bring up the rear. Atop the Locust Street Bridge at Bloomington, Saturday, March 5, 2022, we find LSF 54's ex-SP Jeep switching the old Alton yard and delivering an SD28 recently purchased by AgRail LLC. One of only 2 regular customers served by Union Pacific in Bloomington, AgRail is a high-speed grain terminal which opened in 1999. occupying land once used by the Chicago and Alton's massive roundhouse and shop complex. The shop continued to function during the GM&O years, but withered under Illinois Central Gulf ownership. AgRail ships grain to domestic destinations as well as to Mexico. Norfolk Southern also has access to this facility. The SD-28 replaced an ex-Guilford rail system GP7 seen in the distance. The other industry is a Cargill soybean processing plant located on the city's southwest side. It is served on a short remnant of the Chicago and Alton route from Murrayville on the Springfield to Kansas City line, northeast to Jacksonville, Mason City, Delavan, and Bloomington. Known as the Jack Line, it opened to traffic in 1867. The Gulf, Mobile, and Ohio Railway operated a tri-weekly local the length of the line as well as a daily turn from East Peoria. Traffic and train frequency declined under the Illinois Central Gulf, which operated a tri-weekly Bloomington to Mason City turn until the line was abandoned in 1982. Cargill, whose plant was built and opened by Ralston Purina Corporation in 1949, is the only reason for this short remnant's existence. LSF 54 switches the plant on Friday, April 8, 2022. Service is provided on weekday mornings and as needed on Saturday. Cargill receives soybeans and ships soybean meal and soybean oil. LSF 54 crosses Norfolk Southern's Bloomington district as it heads back to the Bloomington yard with 3 soybean meal loads. All 3 will be rolling south on a manifest to East St. Louis by the next evening. This job makes a Lincoln turn on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays to switch International Paper Company's corrugated box plant, and on occasion Lincoln transload and processing. On a seasonal basis, it also services the Evergreen FS fertilizer facility in McLean, to which it delivers potash. Minutes after leaving the Bloomington yard, train MBNAS exits the Joliet for the Springfield subdivision early Saturday evening, May 19, 2022. Shortly, it will bang across Norfolk Southern's Bloomington district at BN Target. UP 8350 has 40 cars, which include 1 boxcar, loaded but its origin unclear, 1 empty tank car from DuPont at Wilmington, and 22 plastic empties from Coal City. Further down are 2 empties from Lincoln Transload and Processing and 6 empties from International Paper. On the rear are 1 soybean oil and 7 soybean meal loads from the local Cargill plant. Train MBNAS, which stands for Manifest Bloomington, Illinois to Alton and Southern, operates Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, typically departing after northbound Amtrak number 318 is clear. If 318 is late, as it often is, the manifest may depart early and hold for Amtrak on passing sidings at McLean or Athol near Lincoln. You won't see in daylight counterpart MAS-BN or Manifest Alton and Southern to Bloomington, Illinois. This train departs evenings, arriving Bloomington early morning Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, well before sunrise. As you can see, plastic loads or empties for Hoffman Transportation at Coal City easily dominate the train's consist. Typically, they have between 15 and 50 cars, with some reportedly as many as 60 or 70 when plastic traffic is moving heavy. Hopefully, industrial development along this route will lead to more traffic in coming years. Because local LSF 54 doesn't work south of Lincoln, MASBN and MBNAS handle what little local business exists between there and Alton. All that remain are the Illinois and Midland Railroad interchange at Springfield and Central Illinois Steel Company at Carlinville. Of course, there are times when the manifests may be called upon to handle local traffic normally assigned to LSF 54's Lincoln turn. Finally, LSF 54 must turn the manifest single unit at Cayuga, north of Pontiac. Cayuga, by the way, is the destination for this empty grain extra shown November 10th, 2012, rolling through Uptown Station in Normal. After loading at Prairie Central Cooperative's Cayuga Terminal, which is just north of Pontiac, it will return this way for a point in either Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, or even Mexico. Elsewhere on this line, the aforementioned Agrail LLC at Bloomington, as well as Evergreen FS at McLean and Elkhart Grain at Elkhart, can load grain trains. On July 9, 2022, a northbound stack train rolls through McLean en route to the Joliet Intermodal Terminal, also known as Global 4. UP 7824 and UP 8527 have 128 platforms. Since 2012, Union Pacific has used the former Alton route for intermodal trains serving Global 4. At present, there are at least a half dozen such movements per day operating to and from Long Beach, California, Santa Teresa, New Mexico, which serves the El Paso, Texas, Juarez, Mexico market, and Mesquite, Texas, which serves the Dallas-Fort Worth market. More trains will likely be added soon as Union Pacific pursues new business opportunities. Shown in blue, Amtrak is also a tenant of the Union Pacific's Joliet and Springfield subdivisions. I teased this view with the Union Pacific grain train seen November 10, 2012. Amtrak P42 DC number 66, adorned in the Phase 2 Heritage paint scheme, departs Uptown Station with Lincoln Service Train number 301 from Chicago to St. Louis. Uptown Station had been open for 5 months. Note how much has changed since then. Spacing between the tracks has increased, and a new canopied platform has been built to the right or east of the tracks. Amtrak has been using this line since the beginning, May 1, 1971, when it assumed operation of 2 pair of Gulf, Mobile, and Ohio passenger trains running daily between Chicago and St. Louis. Let us take a closer look at Amtrak operations on this line. At Uptown Station on Friday, April 8, 2022, I caught this meet between northbound number 302 and southbound number 301. Siemens Charger locomotives normally pull Lincoln service trains, so number 301's P42 DC provided something unusual on this day. Note 301's all Amfleet consist, which is also unusual as Lincoln service is normally a mix of Amfleet and Horizon equipment, as seen on number 302. Numbers 301 and 302, by the way, are scheduled to meet here around 9:30 a.m. daily. Compare the expanded platform facilities and canopy and increased separation between tracks in this scene to the one from November 10, 2012. On a related note, there has been considerable redevelopment in the station area during the past decade. Amtrak number 22, the northbound Texas Eagle, departs Uptown Station late morning Sunday, June 5, 2022. P42 DC number 57 pulls just 5 superliners, including one adorned for the Winter Park Express, a winter weekend run between Denver and Winter Park Resort in Colorado. Number 22's journey from San Antonio, Texas to Chicago is scheduled for 30 hours and 44 minutes. Uptown Station is an aesthetically pleasing structure serving as a transportation hub for rail and bus services. Amtrak and buses use the first floor, while City Hall and town offices use the upper floors. Much of Amtrak's market here is college students, with Illinois State University's main campus less than a mile away. And much of the ISU student body is from Chicago, so when stepping outside of Uptown Station, a student who hails from there might be forgiven for a momentary thought that they are still home. High-rises surrounding the station do have a Chicago look and feel to them. At Athol Siding near Lincoln, Saturday evening, October 22, 2022, Amtrak number 318 accelerates to 88 miles per hour. After receiving nearly $2 billion on signal and physical plant upgrades, mostly finished in 2017, this route can accommodate 110 mile per hour speeds. Testing between Dwight and Pontiac from 2013 to 2015 showed that technology then in use was unreliable as well as incompatible with Union Pacific's positive train control system, so maximum speeds were reduced back to 79. These issues were eventually resolved, and on July 7, 2021, trains were allowed to run at 90 between a point south of Joliet and Juan just south of Alton. Eventually, Amtrak plans to raise this to the maximum 110 miles per hour speeds. On a sunny late morning Saturday, September 3, 2022, a Siemens Charger leads Amtrak number 319 out of Uptown Station for St. Louis and Kansas City. Note the 4 Siemens Venture coaches behind the 2 baggage cars. These new cars began operation on Lincoln service trains February 1, 2022. Number 21, the southbound Texas Eagle rolls by Union Pacific's Bloomington yard late afternoon Thursday, September 23, 2021. Amtrak normally runs 10 trains a day on this route. Besides numbers 21 and 22, the Chicago-St. Louis Lincoln Service Corridor offers northbound numbers 300, 302, and 306, and southbound numbers 301, 305, and 307. Effective May 23, 2022, Amtrak combined one Missouri River Runner and Lincoln service round trip into a Chicago, St. Louis, Kansas City through service. Missouri River Runner numbers 318 and 319 are used on the Illinois side now, though the Lincoln service brand continues. Northbound number 318 bangs across Norfolk Southern's Bloomington district late afternoon Saturday, September 3, 2022. The new through schedules use Missouri River Runner equipment, including two Viewliner baggage cars. Union Pacific requires trains on its PTC-equipped St. Louis-Kansas City route to have a minimum of 30 axles. Any less, and the train will fail to appear on dispatchers' display screens. This concludes our look at Union Pacific and Amtrak operations on the old Alton route. Norfolk Southern's Bloomington district, shown in light brown, runs between Bement on the Lafayette district, north to Gibson City, and then west to Bloomington-Normal and East Peoria. NS 6173, NS 3454, and NS 7111 lead an 80-car train, D32, the daily Decatur to Normal local, through downtown Bloomington mid-afternoon Sunday, November 14, 2021. The Decatur yard had become a bottleneck due to crew shortages, and most, if not all, traffic on this train was brought to Goodyard to be classified and sent east. Train D32 is a nocturnal movement, but various factors such as waiting to depart Decatur and the volume of work to be done en route can require a relief crew the next morning. Thus, daylight operation through Bloomington-Normal is possible. The Gibson City to East Peoria section of today's Bloomington district was built in two phases. The line into Bloomington, ending with a connection to the Chicago and Alton Railroad, was opened by the Lafayette, Muncie, and Bloomington Railroad in July 1872. The route was leased to the Wabash for several years but became part of the newly created Lake Erie and Western Railway in December 1879. Mileposts reflect an eastern terminus at Sandusky, Ohio. In 1884, the L.E.N.W. decided to extend this line to Peoria, 40 miles to the northwest. Construction commenced in 1887, and the line was ready for operation by late April 1888. After a period of control by the New York Central, the L.E.N.W. merged into the New York, Chicago, and St. Louis Railroad, nicknamed the Nickel Plate Road, in 1923. Local passenger trains served the needs of online cities and towns until being discontinued in 1951. But the Nickel Plate's Frankfort, Indiana to Peoria line became an important route for east-west freight tonnage, carting some 6 daily train movements during the 1950s. This importance continued until the merger with the Wabash and Nickel Plate into the Norfolk and Western in 1964. As the Peoria Gateway was de-emphasized, trains got shorter and less frequent. By 1972, only one pair of through freights remained on a regular basis. The Norfolk Southern merger emphasized north-south traffic, and the important addition of a new large online shipper, Diamond Star Motors, prompted reconfiguration of freight service. Through trains were abolished in 1986 and replaced by a Gibson City to East Peoria turn. Track east of Gibson City was abandoned by the end of 1988. classification shifted from Frankfort, Indiana to Decatur, Illinois. The Bloomington District was created in 1990 by combining former Wabash trackage between Bement and Gibson City and former nickel plate trackage between Gibson City and East Peoria. At the end of 1990, Norfolk Southern subsidiaries, the Norfolk and Western Railway and the Southern Railway, were officially merged into one carrier. By 1992, locals were running through between East Peoria and Decatur. Traffic was growing. The largest online shipper, Diamond Star Motors, was renamed Mitsubishi Motor Manufacturing of America in 1995. In the fall of 1995, Norfolk Southern and Burlington Northern and Santa Fe, or BNSF, moved a large portion of their Chicago interchange to Peoria. The surge in business prompted NS to double freight train operations on the Bloomington District. The 1999 Conrail split ended the Peoria Gateway's brief revival, reducing freight operations. But Mitsubishi's auto plant continued to generate a large volume of traffic for another decade. Unfortunately, retooling in 2012 only delayed what was probably inevitable, and production ceased by the end of 2015. Rumor of sale or lease to a short line come and go, but now that the former Mitsubishi plant has been revived by electric vehicle manufacturer Rivian Automotive, the line's future with NS is assured for the foreseeable future. So let's take a closer look at current operations in the Bloomington-Normal area. NS 5174 and NS 3228 lead a more typical D32 through Bloomington en route to Goodyard in Normal. Actually, this isn't a completely typical D32. The crew couldn't complete their run from Decatur before reaching the federally mandated maximum 12 hours of service. So weekday Goodyard-based road switcher D49 took off earlier that morning with NS 5174 engine light to fetch the dead train, probably somewhere around Gibson City. Seen on a cold and overcast Friday, April 8, 2022, 9 of the train's 43 cars were switched out at Goodyard, while D49 took the rest to the Tazewell and Peoria Railroad in East Peoria. On Monday afternoon, October 18, 2021, train D49 is shown at Alton, approaching Goodyard after returning from its East Peoria trip. NS 3389 and NS 3338 have 32 cars, all but 3 of which are loads. This train represents a who's who of industries located in the Peoria-Pekin switching district. 4 D10T track-type tractor loads from Caterpillar's East Peoria plant, an off-highway mining truck chassis from Komatsu America International's Peoria plant, 16 coil wire rod loads from Liberty Steel and Wire Company's Bartonville Steel Mill, a couple of tank cars from one of Pekin's 2 carbon dioxide gas processors, a few grain alcohol loads that were probably from 1 or 2 of Alto's 3 Pekin distilleries, and 1 likely sodium gluconate load from PMP Fermentation Products Peoria plant. Traffic on Norfolk Southern's Bloomington district is extremely imbalanced in that the vast majority of loads originate online or on connecting carriers like the Tazewell and Peoria Railroad at East Peoria and the Bloomer Shippers Connecting Railroad, or simply the Bloomer Line at Gibson City. Train D32 from Decatur has mostly empties, and thus train D49 to East Peoria does as well. On the return leg, D49 is mostly loads. The return local to Decatur, train D36 with D49 traffic, adds even more loads from Normal and Gibson City. Just a few years ago, train movements here were more frequent. From 2011 to 2019, Norfolk Southern delivered a few monthly Cedar Rapids bound coal trains to the Iowa Interstate at East Peoria. A few of these ran in 2020, but this business was lost to Union Pacific. From early 2014 until mid-February 2016, the Iowa Interstate delivered unit ethanol trains at East Peoria. For most of that time, these trains ran daily. In reverse, Norfolk Southern delivered to Iowa Interstate Manifest Train 115 from Knoxville, Tennessee, and a few empty ethanol trains. Starting in 2012, the Iowa Interstate acted as haulage agent for Norfolk Southern unit grain trains from Des Moines, Iowa to East Peoria. These grain trains have not operated since the summer of 2021, though this past summer Iowa Interstate itself originated several in western Iowa. Although it is the only regular job plying the route between Goodyard and East Peoria, D49 provides classic older locomotives, scenery, and a variety of traffic for the railfan photographer. Now we'll review Norfolk Southern shippers. On August 19, 2017, Train D12 shoved 85 empties into AgRail's Bloomington Terminal. The track arrangement here allows Norfolk Southern to access its customer without having to use the Union Pacific main line. The train, however, had to first cross the Union Pacific when it arrived Bloomington. Going back 14 years to November 19, 2008, Train D47, then the daytime Goodyard-based road switcher, shoves an empty boxcar into Midwest Fiber's Normal facility for baled waste paper loading. This customer is located along White Oak Road near Goodyard. Georgia Pacific Corporation operated a building materials distribution center here from 1974 to 1996. Weyerhaeuser operated a recycling facility here from 1997 until sold to Midwest Fiber in 2001. Significant expansion took place in 2011, and business volume is reportedly up to 30 carloads a month. On September 11, 2021, Train D09, a 50-car grain extra, pulls by the Evergreen FS elevator at Alton, where it was loaded. Norfolk Southern also serves an Evergreen FS elevator at Holder, which is several miles east of Bloomington. Rivian Automotive, located next to Goodyard, began shipping by rail in 2022. As production volume is small, rail shipments are not yet heavy, though that is expected to change over the next few years. NS 5174 and NS 6096 pull 47 cars through downtown Bloomington on Saturday afternoon, September 3, 2022. 10 of the 11 auto racks up front are loaded with Rivian electric vehicles. Rivian produces the R1T pickup, the R1S SUV, and the EDV 700 delivery vans. The first two models are shipped in bi-level auto racks, while the EDVs must be shipped in unilevel cars. Production capacity is 150,000 vehicles a year, and expansion will increase that number to 200,000. The firm expects to complete 25,000 vehicles by the end of 2022. Should plant production increase to something near design capacity, you can bet that trains D32 and D36 will be getting a higher priority to supply the plant with empty auto racks and forward loads to connecting trains at Bement and Decatur. A short time later, the same train rolls by the Evergreen FS elevator at Holder. Many years ago, this elevator ceased shipping by rail. As Norfolk and Western rehabilitated the main line in 1988 and 1989 for the expected surge in high-value traffic from Diamond Star Motors, unused sidings and switches were removed. One of those removed had served the Holder elevator. In the fall of 1998, however, the elevator had a new siding laid so it could load 25-car grain trains. The first train was loaded on December 28, the Monday after Christmas that year. Subsequent expansion enabled loading of 50-car trains. Decatur is a common destination for grain shipped from here and the sister elevator at Alton. This concludes our look at Norfolk Southern in McLean County. Now we shift to three former Illinois Central lines outside of the city. The Bloomer Shippers Connecting Railroad, shown in red, enters McLean County from the northeast. On October 14, 2016, Bloomer 7561 and LTEX 3802 pulled 28 empties into an Alliance Grain Company elevator in Cropsey, located in northeast McLean County. This line, built in 1878, ran for 79.5 miles between Otto, just south of Kankakee on the Chicago District, to Normal Junction on the Amboy District. Successor Illinois Central Gulf abandoned it in 1981, but online shippers formed a short line to purchase and operate it. Known as the Bloomer Shippers Connecting Railroad, or just the Bloomer Line, operations began in 1985. Today it operates 36 miles between Kempton, southeast to Colfax. The Bloomer serves three of parent Alliance Grain Company elevators in the county: Cropsey, Anchor, and Colfax. Potash is received by the Colfax Potash Center. Today's train will be loaded and returned to an ethanol plant at Gibson City by evening. Interchanges are with Canadian National and Norfolk Southern at Gibson City and with TP&W at Chatsworth. Our next line is Canadian National Railway's Gilman Subdivision, which is shown in purple at lower right, passing through the southeast corner of the county. IC 1039 leads a 21-car northbound L585 through Bellflower on Monday, June 27, 2022. The Clinton-based local makes a Gilman turn on most days. This line was built in 1871 and has been freight only since 1971. Regular through freights were abolished in 1987, so this route survives on local business. But CN serves no shippers in McLean County. Our third and final ex-Illinois Central line is Motive Rail's Illinois Terminal Belt Railroad, shown in green at the bottom of the map. It leases CN's Hayworth Spur. On November 1st, 2020, Motive Rail's Illinois Terminal Belt Railroad assembled a 105-car grain train at the Tate and Lyle Grain Elevator in Hayworth. GP10 Paducah rebuilds will drag the train 10 miles to the Canadian National at Clinton for forwarding to Decatur. This short stretch is the sole surviving remnant of the Illinois Central Railroad's charter line in McLean County. A section from LaSalle to Bloomington opened in May 1853. The segments from Bloomington south to Clinton and north from LaSalle to Mendota and Freeport were completed in January 1855. Known here as the Amboy District, the line prospered for a while before the main line from Chicago southward assumed greater importance. Nevertheless, this route saw healthy freight business well into the 20th century. Passenger service ended in 1939. Two pair of daily through freights between Freeport and Clinton continued until the late 1960s. After that, one pair continued to ply this route until October 1983, when most of the line between El Paso and Hayworth was abandoned. The Illinois Central maintained the short stretch from Clinton north due to unit train capable elevators at Wapella and Hayworth. Successor Canadian National continued to serve those elevators, but that railroad was considered difficult to deal with by the shippers. For a time in 2009, it looked as if service would end. A new contract was signed, however, and after some track rehabilitation, trains resumed late that year. Fast forward to 2019 and no trains had been loaded for at least 2 years. So CN decided to lease the Hayworth spur to the Illinois Terminal Belt. The first train left Hayworth on October 30th that year. So service on this line seems assured for the foreseeable future. Last but not least is the Toledo, Peoria, and Western Railway. Shown in orange, this line forms an east-west route through the northern fringes of the county. On March 4, 2021, TPW 5010, Huron and Eastern 3485, and TPW 5008 lead the East Peoria to Effner freight into Gridley with 45 cars. The train stopped here to spot 7 grain empties at the Ruff Brothers Grain Elevator. The TP&W has a long and dramatic history, and much has been written on it. Pertaining to McLean County, a predecessor had completed its line from the Illinois River to the Illinois Central Charter Line at El Paso in September 1856. In early 1857, track layers made rapid progress to Chenoa, where it connected with a Chicago and Alton predecessor. A bridge at Peoria opened in April that year, adding more direct rail connections. Construction resumed eastward from Chenoa and reached the Indiana state line in late December 1859. Regular service started in January 1860. Receivership, all too common among early railroads, led to the acquisition by the Toledo, Peoria, and Warsaw Railway in 1864. The Toledo, Peoria, and Western name was adopted in 1880. The TP&W suffered accidents and financial distress through the rest of the 19th century and well into the 20th. The company's fortunes turned brighter, however, after being acquired by New York banker George P. McNair Jr. in 1926. Although he developed an oft-times hostile relationship with the Rhodes Brotherhoods, he upgraded the track, the locomotive fleet, and rolling stock. Solicitation of bridge traffic between Western and Eastern carriers made TP&W a busy railroad, even during the depressed 1930s. Tensions with the Brotherhoods led to McNair's murder in 1947, but succeeding presidents enjoyed much better relations with the employees. Aggressive online industrial development and joint purchase by the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe and the Pennsylvania Railroad ensured prosperity through the 1960s. A series of three unfortunate events in 1970 alone, loss of the Illinois River Bridge resulting in costly trackage rights over another carrier, bankruptcy of Penn Central, which was TP&W's half-owner and major eastern connection, and a costly and well-publicized derailment and explosion at Crescent City signaled gathering storm clouds. In 1976, TP&W expanded eastward to Logansport, Indiana, when it acquired Penn Central's Effner branch, unwanted by Conrail. Santa Fe gained full control of the TP&W in early 1981. Railroad deregulation and the abrogation of a route, rate, and service agreement with Conrail led to the loss of the line's still heavy bridge traffic that summer. At the end of 1983, the Santa Fe absorbed what had become a money-losing carrier. It soon became obvious that operation of the former TP&W yielded less than pleasing results, so Santa Fe sold it in early 1989 to investors who incorporated a reborn TP&W. This reborn TP&W, no stranger to drama, has been owned or controlled by the late Gordon Fuller, Delaware Otsego Corporation, Rail America, and now Genesee and Wyoming. G&W has been controlled by Brookfield Infrastructure Partners since July 2019. Through these changes, the TP&W's route mileage and traffic mix has changed dramatically. On March 29th of the same year, I caught this 4-unit lash-up pulling 7 grain loads from the Ruff Brothers elevator. Ruff acquired longtime Gridley business McKee and Roeg in 2011. Affiliated Ruff Rail operates a high-speed shuttle elevator loop just east of Toluca on BNSF's Chillicothe subdivision, but for now seems content to ship by rail at this traditional small-town elevator. There are 2 dormant rail users in Gridley. Carey Ingredients sweetened cereal facility on the west side received rice flour until a few years before it closed in late 2018. On the east side, Myers Crop Center regularly shipped grain by rail until after its acquisition by Brandt Consolidated in 2009. The TP&W also serves Prairie Central Cooperative facilities at Meadows, Greenfield, and Weston. The Greenfield elevator deserves special mention. On May 16, 2021, I caught BNSF 5334 and BNSF 4704 pulling a 116-car grain shuttle out of the loop located about midway between Meadows to the west and Chenoa to the east. The TP&W calls this location Greenfield. In addition to high-speed grain loading operations, which began in 2018, wind turbine components have been unloaded and stored here prior to construction. This train's destination was Friona, Texas. Another common destination is Hereford, Texas. Trains to CSX and Norfolk Southern destinations have been loaded here as well. CN 3236 brings up the rear as distributed power unit. On a wintry evening, February 21, 2022, an eastbound manifest leaves the town of Weston in the distance. TPW 5008 TZPR 2133 TPW 5010 and IMRR 1550 have 40 cars. Notably, the first 10 cars are potash loads from Bethune, Saskatchewan. They are consigned to Northern Illinois Alliance LLC's Crescent City Fertilizer Terminal. They were routed over Canadian Pacific to Chicago and then the Union Pacific to the Peoria area, where it was received by the TP&W. TP&W freight operations through McLean County are unpredictable. Road freights generally work 2 cycles a week between East Peoria and Effner on the Indiana state line, though at present there do not appear to be any set days of operation. This may be due to traffic, crew availability, or management directives. Nevertheless, if one has the opportunity to capture a TP&W freight train, do not miss it.